Hello and welcome back to the Department of Reinvention. Today's upcycle is an old sideboard, and as you can see it is absolutely covered in paint. Even the brass detail is also covered in paint. At some point this sideboard had either a mirror or possibly even a shelf, and you can see throughout the video there's sort of notches cut into the back, which tells me there was a brace for a support for either a mirror or a shelf, and I will be putting in a new mirror. I actually really love dealing with these painted pieces because you never know what sort of lovely wood is hiding underneath all that paint. The first step was to take out the drawers and then remove all of the hardware. When I'm cleaning up pieces of hardware from pieces like this, I usually boil the pieces for about 10 minutes on the stove in water, and usually after that you can use either a brass or a steel brush very gently and remove any of the paint left remaining, and then after that I go in and do a sort of brasso soak and then polish them up. Before I started to strip the paint off the top of this piece, I went in with just some sandpaper just to roughen up the paint, because that allows the paint stripper to really get into the lower layers of paint. Or at least this is what I was trying to do. There is so much paint on this, I ended up using 4 different paint strippers on it to get through all of that paint. I actually had a slight camera mishap partway through filming of this video, so some of the footage is unfortunately lost, but I don't think anything too vital. I started off using just a regular scraper, but as we got through layers of paint and it was becoming clear it was really stubborn, I went in with a sort of sharpened bladed scraper. When I was finally done with all that paint stripper, I wiped everything down with white spirit just to remove any last remaining bits of the liquid paint stripper. I use some detail scrapers, so they're scrapers in different shapes, and they're really good for getting into the really difficult sort of curved edges and different parts like that. And the coffee cup isn't a product placement, I just accidentally left it there. I don't recommend leaving cups of coffee on stripped wood. I also used the paint stripper and scraper on the drawers, and they were definitely a lot easier to remove the paint from. As the wood on the front of the drawers and the cupboard doors was really lovely, I didn't want to paint it, so it was really important I got rid of as much paint as possible. So this is the way I remove paint from whenever that you have slightly more deeper grain and sometimes the paint gets trapped in there, this is the technique I use. I go in with a nylon brush and some paint stripper, and you just sort of move it around from circles, make sure it really is getting in all those little detailed areas, and then leave it for a minute or two and then wipe it off. This usually gets rid of most paint that's trapped in the wood grain. After those were done, I cleaned them up with white spirit to get rid of that paint stripper residue, and then I went in with 120 grit sandpaper and then a 240 grit sandpaper. This makes the wood nice and smooth and ready for its clear coat. Unfortunately, the footage was lost, but for the top of the sideboard, the cupboards and the drawer fronts, I did use the Osmo Oils Pollux oil, just a clear version with a satin finish. As the edges of the drawers and the cupboard doors weren't in great shape, the veneer was ever so slightly damaged in places, I decided to give them a gold border. So I used some masking tape and cling film to mask those off and then spray them with the Rust-Oleum's Brilliant Gold spray paint. The inside of the drawers were just rubbed down with some white spirit just to give them a clean up, and then treated with some Danish oil. I did also prime this piece with the Zinsser bin primer, which is really good for blocking any staining coming through from wood tannins. Now this was satin finish furniture paint by Rust-Oleum in the shade Peacock, and I used about 2 or 3 coats for the most part. I managed to find a mirror that was a good size and similar sort of style to the sideboard. I removed the old hardware from it with a bit of help from some WD-40, and then I built a bracket using some solid pine and some really strong corner brackets and installed it that way. I wanted the edges of the main body of the sideboard to be gold, so I used some masking tape and cling film just to tape off those edges and spray paint them gold. And finally, all I needed to do was just install that cleaned up hardware. And here is the finished result. I'm really happy with it. The peacock coloured paint was a lot brighter than I was expecting, but I think it actually really works as a really sort of beautiful bluish tone contrast to that beautiful veneer. As always, I've put links to the products used in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe.